Good morning, students, and welcome to poem number 4, Amanda, written by Robin Klein. This poem talks about a little girl and her state of mind when she is constantly instructed by her mother. Every child feels that he or she is controlled and instructed not to do one thing or another. You too may feel that your freedom is curtailed. So now, before we read the poem, let me give you some information about the poet. Robin Klein is an Australian author of books for children. She writes children's and young adult fiction. Some of her famous books are Hating Alison Ashley and People Might Hear You. Now, let us read the poem once and then we will listen to the explanation verse by verse. Amanda by Robin Klein. Don't bite your nails, Amanda. Don't hunch your shoulders, Amanda. Stop that slouching and sit up straight, Amanda. There is a languid emerald sea where the sole inhabitant is me, a mermaid drifting blissfully. Did you finish your homework, Amanda? Did you tidy your room, Amanda? I thought I told you to clean your shoes, Amanda. I am an orphan roaming the street. I pattern soft dust with my hushed bare feet. The silence is golden, the freedom is sweet. Don't eat that chocolate, Amanda. Remember your acne, Amanda. Will you please look at me when I'm speaking to you, Amanda? I am Rapunzel. I have not a care. Life in a tower is tranquil and rare. I certainly never let down my bright hair. Stop that sulking at once, Amanda. You're always so moody, Amanda. Anyone would think that I nagged at you, Amanda. So, children, this is the poem. Now, let us go to verse 1. Don't bite your nails, Amanda. Don't hunch your shoulders, Amanda. Stop that slouching and sit up straight, Amanda. So here, children, let us have a look at the new words that are given there. The first new word is hunch. Hunch means bend. To bend your, here it is hunch your shoulders, so it's bending your shoulders. Slouching. Slouching means again to droop, not to sit straight. In this stanza, the poet says that Amanda is getting instructions, most probably by her parents, and it could be her mother, for biting her nails and sitting lazily with her shoulders bent. And the tone of instructions is not a friendly one. It fails to make any sense to Amanda. The poet here focuses on the aspects which are related to the upbringing of a child, that is, this girl, Amanda, and how parents go to any limit to bring proper sense to their child. Amanda is thus getting trained for the society that she is a part of. The pressure of making oneself presentable to society triumphs over every other behavior and manners. The last phrase or word Amanda is used with an exclamation mark, which shows the irritation and the frustration of that parent. Now we continue. There is a languid emerald sea where the sole inhabitant is me, a mermaid drifting blissfully. Now, here, children, the new words are languid. The meaning of the word languid is to be relaxed, and inhabitant is a resident, a person who lives in a particular place. And the meaning of the word drifting is floating. So, here as we can see, it is quite interesting that the above lines are given within brackets. Brackets are used to provide more information regarding this. So in this stanza, the poet uses it to present the imagination of the little girl, the free flow of her thoughts. Amanda uses her imagination as an escape point from the day-to-day nagging, from the day-to-day commands of her parents. She feels suffocated in the real world, and therefore she finds peace in her very own created world where there are no restraints. So Amanda is lost in a world of her own, away from the disorder and principles and the demands of society. She imagines herself as a happy mermaid sailing within without any confines along soft waves of the green sea. And this world of Amanda is free, and it is contained inside of her, and her happiness doesn't require any other human being. It is important to note that Amanda does not need her father or mother, and because they are she feels that they are nagging her so much that she is being tortured. Her life is not going the way she wants it, and there is no one to support her. For a little child, a mermaid is the symbol of freedom and wonder. Another meaning that is attached with a mermaid is that they don't wish to be disturbed as they live in their own environment, and they would do anything that they wish to do. For this reason, Amanda wishes to be a mermaid. Now, let us have a look at the third verse. Did you finish your work, Amanda? Did you tidy your room, Amanda? I thought I told you to clean your shoes, Amanda. So here, as we can see, in this stanza, the poet says that Amanda is now being asked about whether she has finished her homework, whether she has cleaned her shoes, whether she has tidied up her room. All these instructions, it shows a shift from the instructions given in the first stanza. Now Amanda is being coached about the things that are related to her surroundings. The pattern of instructions shows how every aspect of her is related to questioning. That means her parents keep on asking her questions about this and that and so many other things. And it's like they are constantly guiding her. She is being disciplined for every little thing. And this makes her lose her innocence. Her innocence is getting lost with the passage of time. And the way these instructions are being given, it points out the regular nature. That means this is not a once in a way thing. This happens day in and day out all the time. So her parents seem to be losing their cool and they are irritated, they are annoyed, they are troubled. They are helpless in bringing, knocking sense into this girl as she is not paying proper attention to the instructions given by them. Now, let us go to verse number 4. I am an orphan roaming the street. I pattern soft dust with my hushed bare feet. The silence is golden, the freedom is sweet. So, here, children, the new word that is given here is pattern. The meaning of pattern is design. Now, what does the poet mean by this stanza? In this verse, the poet says that Amanda is again lost in a world of her own. After getting a fresh set of instructions from her parents, she wishes to be away from this daily routine life. The very first line is very depressing, where Amanda hopes to be an orphan, suggesting how depressed she is because of her parents. This is a very sorry place for a child to be in. Parents should be very careful in making their kids understand the ways of the world. And while doing so, they should also respect their child's awareness about the things, about cleanliness, about neatness, about tidiness. And Amanda thinks of herself as an orphan, roaming on the streets, moving without any aim in life, without any purpose. And she seems very happy as she draws patterns using her bare feet. Patterning of dust is important here as it brings order to the carefree world of hers. And the shouting and yelling of her parents seems very harsh to bear, and that is why she desires, peace and quiet. She doesn't want to be there in the house. She just wants to go away, and she thinks she's an orphan because she feels if I'm an orphan, then no one would be there to tell me things. Now let us go on to the next verse. Don't eat that chocolate, Amanda. Remember your acne, Amanda. Will you please look at me when I'm speaking to you, Amanda? So, here as we can see, acne means pimples. Now, in this stanza, the poet says that the set of instructions provided indicates how important it is for Amanda to understand the value of external beauty and the steps that are necessary to preserve that beauty from a very tender age. Amanda is stopped by her parents from eating a chocolate, as previously that has caused her to have pimples. So here we see how a child is made conscious of a natural experience such as acne. However, she is lost in her own thoughts and doesn't care enough to even look up at her scolding parents. This carelessness makes her parents angry and they ask her for attention. They demand attention when she is being scolded. The role of appearance in society has given more importance than basic values and creativity. Now let us read on further. I am Rapunzel. I have not a care. Life in a tower is tranquil and rare. I certainly never let down my bright hair. So here, the meaning of the word tranquil is very calm. So the poet says, the little girl is speaking here. In this stanza, the poet says that Amanda is still lost in her own dreams. She pictures She pictures herself to be the long golden-haired Rapunzel who lived in a castle and had no care, that means had no worries about anything. Amanda imagines the life of Rapunzel must have been very peaceful and amazing in that tower, but she wishes to escape the fate that was met out to Rapunzel as she is unwilling to let her hair down. Amanda doesn't want her peace to be disturbed by anyone. So, she wants a life which is far away from any other human being. We can see here how the presence of her parents and their nagging behavior has made her to be against any human connection. She doesn't want to be connected to anyone. In the story of Rapunzel, it's because of a prince that Rapunzel is able to understand and receive happiness. But Amanda doesn't even require any prince, and she is totally unaware about the feelings of love which she should be receiving from her parents. The terrific effect of her parents' teaching on Amanda can be seen such that she just wants to escape reality and she goes into a world of her own imagination. Here we can see that she wants to live by herself as the presence of another being requires her to act in the way that they want her to act. So now let us go to the last verse. Stop that sulking at once, Amanda. You're always so moody, Amanda. Anyone would think that I nagged at you, Amanda. So over here, children, there are two new words. Let us look at the first one. Sulking means brooding. And the next word, nagged, means to be harassed or troubled. So in this stanza, we can see the poet says that the parents keep on instructing, keep on nagging Amanda on the do's and don'ts, but she remains lost in her own dreams. The parents believe that Amanda is not reacting because she is annoyed. Amanda's behavior has made her parents look very bad as they are worried about their image. They are more concerned about how society will look at them if their child always remains in a bad mood. They want to prove themselves as good and responsible parents who manage to balance out what the child wants and what the society expects of Amanda. However, they have already failed in their efforts. So, children, in conclusion, we can say that this poem deals with the upbringing of a little child, the way she is brought up, Amanda. It highlights the struggles that are faced by her. Then the poet makes a very important point that a child should never be denied freedom, though it is parents who are responsible for the proper upbringing of their child, but they should not make a child feel trapped. Here, Amanda is prepared to be acceptable in society, and this training needs her freedom to be cut short. Her imagination is not given enough space, and that is the reason why it makes her so angry that she wishes to be an orphan. The continuous nagging has made her very moody. So, children, now let us go back to the poem, the beginning of the poem, and look at the rhyme scheme. Now, in the first verse, don't bite your nails, Amanda. Then, in the second line, again we have Amanda. So, the first one is Amanda A, Amanda B. Then, Amanda in the first line is A, and then straight does not rhyme with Amanda, so it becomes B, and then again A. So A, A, B, A. Okay, so that is the rhyme scheme of the this first verse. And then here, see, me, and blissfully. See, me, blissfully. All these three lines keep rhyming. So it is C, C, C. Here it is A, B, A, and then C, C, C. So that is the rhyme scheme of the poem. Now, let us have a look at the figures of speech in this poem, beginning with the first line. Don't bite your nails, Amanda. So over here we can see this exclamation mark, isn't it? So this is exclamation. An exclamatory form is used for poetic effect. Then we also have letter T's. Lighter T's, you can pronounce it as lighter T's or litter T's. So, lighter T's is a negation. Don't bite your nails, Amanda. Okay, so a negation is used to convey an affirmative meaning. That means a mother is telling her, stop biting your nails. Then let us go to the second sentence. Don't hunch your shoulders, Amanda. So here again we have exclamation, right? So that is for poetic effect. And then we also have synecdoche. Don't hunch your shoulders. Now, shoulder stands for Amanda. So here part for the whole. Part stands for the whole. Then the next one, don't hunch your shoulders. It also is lighter T's. A negation is used to convey an affirmative meaning. Stop hunching your shoulders. Then the third line, stop that slouching and sit up straight, Amanda. So here it is. This is S, sir, 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 sir. So it is alliteration. Stop is the first letter is a consonant sound, that is S, sir, 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 sir. So stop slouching, sit straight. So this is alliteration. Then the next line, there is a languid emerald sea where the sole inhabitant is me, a mermaid drifting blissfully. So the first figure of speech, there's a comparison between Amanda and the mermaid. So Amanda and the mermaid here. So that is metaphor. The point of comparison is enjoying one's freedom. Okay, the sole inhabitant is me, that is Amanda, who is a mermaid, who has all the freedom in the world. So, then the next one is mermaid is metonymy. Mermaid stands for Amanda. Then, personification, the inanimate sea. The inanimate sea is given the human quality of being languid. Okay, we saw the meaning of the word languid means to be very relaxed. So, who relaxes? People normally relax. But here they are telling us that the sea is languid. The sea is relaxing. So, uh, it is personification. And then we also have internal rhyme. We have see and me. See and me, all this in one line. So there is internal rhyme. Then the next line. Did you finish your homework, Amanda? So here you can see this is called the mark of interrogation. The mark of interrogation is a figure of speech, just like we have exclamation, right? So we also have interrogation, but it's a rhetorical question. You're asking it just for the sake of asking. Okay, they don't want an answer to that. Then the next one also, did you tidy your room, Amanda? Again, it is a interrogation. Okay, so just for the sake of asking, her mother already knows that she hasn't done her homework. Her mother knows she hasn't tidied her room. So she's just questioning her for the sake of questioning. The next one, I thought I told you to clean your shoes, Amanda. So here again it is exclamation first of all, and then it is I and I. So there's a repetition. So I thought I. So I is uh, the figure of speech is repetition. Then, I am an orphan roaming the street. So, here, orphan stands for Amanda. So, it is metonymy. One thing stands for the other. One thing represents another. Then, the next one is, I pattern soft dust with my hushed bare feet. So, here, the first one is the feet. See, part for the whole. This feet stands for Amanda. So here it is synecdoche. And then the next one is transferred epithet. The adjective hushed. It is not the feet which are hushed. It is Amanda who is hushed. She is very silent. So instead of saying Amanda is hushed, they are saying hushed bare feet. Okay. So this is transferred epithet, and it's also a metaphor. Amanda's footprints are compared to design. The point of comparison is to form some particular shape. I pattern soft dust. Then let us go on to the next verse. Don't eat that chocolate, Amanda. Again it is exclamation. Then it's also whenever there's a negation, no children, you must remember that whenever you see a no, not, don't, it is always lighter T's. So here, don't eat that chocolate, Amanda, is lighter T's. You're using a negation to say something constructive. Don't eat that chocolate, okay? It is used to avoid eating that chocolate. The next one, remember your acne, Amanda. Again, it is exclamation first of all. Then, will you please look at me when I'm speaking to you, Amanda? Again, here we have exclamation. Then we also have alliteration where the sound, see here, W and then W, okay? So it's repeated, were. Here it's a were sound, were, will and when. This is a repetition. So it is of the same sound, that is alliteration. And then repetition of the word you and you. This is also repeated. So it is repetition. Then we go on to the next verse. I am Rapunzel and I have not a care. Life in a tower is tranquil and rare. So here Rapunzel stands for Amanda. So it is metonymy, one thing standing for another. And it also has internal rhyme. Here we have care and rare. Can you see here? Care and rare. They are used in the same sentence. The next one, I'll certainly never let down my bright hair. So hair stands for, it's not the hair, it is talking about Amanda. So it is synecdoche, and it's also exclamation. Then we go to the next line. Stop that sulking at once, Amanda. So here we can see it is exclamation first of all. Then you're always so moody, Amanda. So here exclamation again. Exclamatory form is used for poetic effect. Then the next one. Anyone would think that I nagged at you, Amanda. So again here we have exclamation. So in the whole poem we have what is repeated most is exclamation and interrogation. Also, metaphor, alliteration. There are so many figures of speech which are used here. Now, let us have a look at the question answers. How old do you think Amanda is, and how do you know this? So, I think Amanda uh, Amanda is a teenage girl. She may be 12, 13 years old because she's ordered not to bite her nails, to finish her homework, and not to eat the chocolate. So her acne tells us that she's a school-going teenage girl. Then, who do you think is speaking to her? From the poem, it's probably her mother who is speaking to her. The things told to her are all during the daytime, maybe after school. So her mother is a housewife and she constantly keeps an eye on the little girl, telling her what to do and what not to do. Her constant telling appears to be a little nagging also. Then, why are stanzas 2, 4 and 6 given in parenthesis? Now, parenthesis means in brackets. So, why are these three, stanza number, verse number 2, 4 and 6 given in parenthesis? Now, the reason is that this is not like actually part of what the mother is saying, but it is no, Amanda retreats. She gets into the world from reality. She tries to run away from reality and she escapes into a world of her own. So that world is her own fantasy land where her mother constantly nags her and she turns a deaf ear to all that her mother is saying. Then, who is the speaker in 2, 4 and 6? And do you think this speaker is listening to the speaker in stanzas 1, 3, 5 and 7? The speaker in stanza 2, 4 and 6 is Amanda and she's fed up of her mother's constant orders and nagging and grumbling. So the mother is always in the speaker in stanzas 1, 3, 5 and 7 is Amanda's mother. The mother's always nagging her and that's the reason why she escapes into a fantasy land and she hardly listens to what her mother is saying. What could Amanda do if she were a mermaid? If Amanda were a mermaid, then she fantasizes that she would drift happily on a relaxed emerald sea. She would be all by herself, the only inhabitant in that place, and there would be no one to scold her and nag her the whole day long. Is Amanda an orphan? Why does she say so? No, Amanda is not at all an orphan. She has parents, and we can see that from the constant scolding, instructions given to her. And, they keep advising her, do this, don't do this, and so on. She has a family. Her mother's always scolding her, telling her what to do. But the reason why she fantasizes that she's an orphan is that an orphan has no one to tell them what to do. They can do as they please. They can do as they like. There's no one to check them, no one to scold them, no one to say anything. And so that is what she yearns for. That is what she longs for. She just wants to get away from all this ordering about and scolding. So, do you know the story of Rapunzel? Why does she want to be Rapunzel? Rapunzel was a girl who was hidden in a tower by a witch and she couldn't come out. It was a high tower, but a prince came and rescued her. So Amanda fancies that she is Rapunzel living in a tower in peace, which was not found in her home. Her mother constantly controlled, scolded, and kept on reprimanding her, ordering her around. But as Rapunzel, she would never let her hair down and allow anyone to come close to her. Then, what does this girl yearn for? And what does this poem tell you about Amanda? The girl yearns for some freedom from the constant ordering, instructions, and scolding of her mother. From the poem, we can understand that the mother feels that she is lazy, forgetful, and very irresponsible, and she does not pay attention to her work. However, she is just a schoolgirl who needs some little space to grow and to be taught by love and affection instead of just constantly scolding and nagging. That is not something that should be done. Then read the last stanza. Do you think Amanda is sulking and is moody? Amanda does get irritated by her mother's constant nagging and scolding, but she is hardly sulking or moody. She has just made her own escape route. The moment her mother starts scolding, it's like a cassette playing. The moment she knows that her mother started on her daily instructions, she just she turns a deaf ear to her mother's instruction, and she's lost in her own imagination. She's lost into this fantasy world. She starts fantasizing that she's somewhere else doing something different, and so she turns a deaf ear to her mother. The mother takes her silence to be sulking and to be very moody, but Amanda has built her own defense mechanism to deal with her nagging mother. So, children, I do hope you have understood this poem well. Do read it and write the question answers of this poem. If you have any doubts, you can contact me and ask and clarify your doubts. Thank you and have a nice day.